Cause ain't nobody dim my light. And you know I'm fitting it right. Look on me cute and nice. You know I was your paradise. Look from when me I say are you. I
Hey,
criticize and accuse everything we do. Hey, nobody with the ring, me not there with you. Invisible even though say me there so. Yeah man, that's energy.
Yo, Izzy, are you kidding me?
Ain't nobody in my light, and you know I'm fitting it right. Look on me cute and nice. You know I was your paradise. Back, forth and forth. You a talk and a talk, but you not do a thing, yeah. Back, forth and forth. Now you man inna the rough, can't find another me, yeah. Back, forth and forth. Now you try to fix what you've done. Pushing now, I'm out the door. Ain't nobody in my light, and you know I'm fitting it right. Look on me cute and nice. You know I was your paradise. Look from when me I see.
hi Naomi, welcome.
Hi, what's up? Thank you for having me.
No problem. How are you this morning?
Not bad, just had a chill morning, woke up early, did some meditation, did some stretches. Yeah, I had a good morning so far. How are you?
I'm great as well. And so, Naomi, I just want to say congratulations again on the release of your new song, Energy. I tell you before that I think that's my favorite song by you.
Yay!
And the visuals are so beautiful. So, congrats to you and your team on that, Naomi.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Took a lot of work and we're still working, so I'm
Mhm.
grateful.
Before I go more into your music career, I want you to tell me what was life like for Naomi before the music, because I know this is something that you weren't necessarily always into.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I mean, it's also really hard to answer that question because my life wouldn't really exist without music. Just so that you know, because my parents are both in the music industry and met as a result of being in music. So I can't really say, boy, what was life like before music? Because even though I was not professionally doing music, it's always been a big part of my life. And I grew up in the industry, meaning, my parents tried to take us everywhere they could. So I've been to countless concerts and studio sessions and rehearsals and all of that kind of stuff. So I know what you're asking, but I wouldn't be doing myself justice by saying there was life before music because that's how my parents met. It was because my mom decided to come to Jamaica to pursue her music career, how she met my dad. So,
Mm.
but I think to answer your question, life before maybe being a full-time musician or a full-time artist, I was singing, but I was more singing at church, right? And I used to sing every week at church, different churches that I was going to, and playing music on, kind of like in like behind the scenes where I was just like practicing guitar, practicing writing to see what music would feel like for me. And I just worked regular jobs. And I don't want to say the word regular because what someone else does may not be regular to them, but I was just working, 9 to 5s in different industries, primarily in media, advertising. And my last job was actually at a fintech company. So I worked at a startup and they did like online financial planning.
Nice. So, just to take you a little bit further back, I know that you too had left Jamaica. I know you said that your mom decided to come to Jamaica, and that's how your mom and your father met. But when did you decide to leave Jamaica and then decided to come back to pursue your music career? What was that time span like?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm born and raised there, by the way. A lot of people don't think I'm actually from Jamaica for whatever reason. But I'm born and raised here, and I went to university in Canada. And so my plan was really to stay and take advantage of what the first world offered in terms of just like job security, safety. Just I guess what you might consider a better standard of living or having access to a certain standard of living. So, I was planning on staying because I actually really love Toronto and I love that I love the city of Toronto for sure. Like I grew so much living there and learned so much about myself and learned so much about just other people and cultures and belief systems and people from different religious backgrounds. Like you just don't, living in Jamaica, you don't get the opportunity to connect with people on a certain level, even though you might be aware of what the world has to offer, but it's not until you live in another place that you really get a chance to expand your horizons and just expand your mind, And so I was planning on staying and just living there, maybe moving to New York or something like that, but I wasn't really planning on coming back to Jamaica. However, as music started to, I think like music itself would not let me go is the way I would say it. Like no matter what decision I made or where I turned or whatever, music was just constantly on my mind. Singing, I was just always singing, and I was just always finding ways to sing and perform. And I thought to myself, if this is what really makes me happy and the happiest, why not give myself a chance and find a way to do it every single day, make it my career. And so I decided to move back to Jamaica for a couple of reasons. I realized that, first of all, Jamaica is like a cultural hub for music, not just reggae dancehall, but just in general. So much has come out of Jamaica. And I knew for me, returning to, I guess, I don't want to use the word my roots because, I don't have no other roots but Jamaica, but returning to the soil that helped to shape me is the words I would use. I felt a very significant pull to come back to Jamaica. I mean, I guess I could have stayed in foreign, you know what I mean? And do the music thing there. But the truth is that there's just something special about the music that is created here, the type of talent, the type of people that we have here. The creative industry here is just like phenomenal. And I just knew that I needed to be here. And so, I left, like a life I really loved to try and create a life I would love even more. And so, I made that decision. It was very scary. And I was, full of doubts and questions and fears and worries and all of that stuff. But I just knew that if I didn't do it now, I wasn't going to do it. Like if I didn't do it, it wasn't going to happen. And it was up.
Or you would regret.
Or I would regret it. Because I would rather come back and maybe, if things don't work out, whatever the case is, like, I'd rather that happen than to not try at all. Right. And so that was 3 years ago. And so here we are.
Here we are.
You never put up a fight, no. Paradise Love. Just know me like we knew we never had to say your word, not your shown. Silence. Spending time on the regular. We'll pass the days when you just call me on my cellular. If I'm the book, then you're the editor. Cause we always bringing all the best in us. It's not a rushing, man. Even though you cuss me cause I stress you, I'm not noting, man. It's just a trusting, man. Doing life together, got each other, I'm not noting.
And I'm really proud of you for making that big move. As an international student myself, that's always it's always a question that we get is, are you going to stay or are you going to come back? Like, what are you going to do? And it puts a lot of pressure on you as a person to want to know what do I do next?
Yeah.
So you've moved to Jamaica now, and what has that difference been like moving from Canada to Jamaica? It comes with its challenges. So what are some of those?
The challenges? I mean, boy, just the everyday challenges, doing life is what I would call it. Doing life here is challenge. It's a big jump because a lot of things are more organized overseas, right? And especially I would say like Canada is like Toronto at least is a very forward thinking place. It's still small. It's not as big as like in New York or in London or whatever, but like just the everyday things are not as difficult. Like if you get a check, you don't have to go to bank and cash it and whatever. Like you can just go to an ATM machine and put it in and it goes to your account. Those kind of things are like I'm not gonna lie, the everyday things are a lot easier. Yeah, even something simple as public transportation, right? At the end of the day, it kind of make more sense to drive in Kingston, especially, or just even in Jamaica, because we don't have trains and stuff that take you from point A to point B. And, you know, we have JUTC, but that is limited in itself. And unfortunately, it's not exactly the safest place for young women, or for women, and for lots of people in general. But, you know, so I you know, those little things are the daily things are challenging. How long it takes for certain things to get done. You know, I don't have to go into it, you know, especially even like you just want to buy things online and it take a little bit longer, and whatever the case is. So there are some challenges in that way. And you know, it just takes a lot of adjusting. But, you know, nothing, I mean, there's also just a lot of benefits to living in Jamaica, as you would know. So it balances it out for sure.
Most definitely. So let's finally move into your music career. So it's been 3 years now. How has it been so far?
Yeah, wow, I mean, how has it been? It's been a journey in terms of like learning. There's been a lot of, I've had to learn a lot, truthfully. I've had to do a lot of observation. That's one of the things I've been doing a lot, is just observing and then learning and adapting and pivoting as I go along, if that makes sense. Because I was not here for a good while. So I had to really take a seat and watch and see what was going on, basically. Watch and see what was going on the streets, if you want to call it that. So there's a lot of learning that I've had to go through, immersing myself in the industry. You know, just because I grew up in it don't mean I know everything about it. So a lot of learning has taken place for sure. Beyond that, it's been a blessing. You know, I've had to work very, very hard to make small steps, right? Because I came into this space basically on my own. I'm not under anybody's like label, or nobody never really like bust me and carry me to studio. I just showed up for myself, and I showed up as best as I can, and I utilized whatever connections I already had, and just started to say, here I am. It took a lot of like shamelessness. I just had to be shameless with it, right? Because if it's, you know, in a way, all of it is really up to me. So it's been terrifying in a positive way. And beyond that, you know, because we are in an island where, you know, people sometimes might have assumptions about maybe somebody like me. You know, like she come from these parents and they think I must come from a whole heap of money or whatever, you know. So I really had to come against a lot of assumptions, you know, and I've had to just keep showing up, you know. So for example, whenever I hit a stage and I perform, of course, the person who's hosting or introducing me will say, oh, she's the daughter of this person, whatever. So it turns into people judging you, and can she actually sing? Is she good? Is she good? You know, I can see it on their face, and then by the time them hear me singing, they're like, "Oh yeah, man, she can go on." You know, so it's definitely been difficult in that regard. But for me, I know that my intentions are pure, and I'm just here to sing and share that joy. So I don't really worry about that stuff too much, but I see it and I observe it and I take note of it, right? What else? So I really can't complain, because, you know, by being here and doing my music and stuff, like I've seen so many people come to appreciate my talent and appreciate my music. I've seen people listening to my music as far as like, you know, Japan and South America, and I've traveled to Europe a couple of times and been able to perform. Those things are like really special, and I mean, just such a blessing for me to see myself like going places I never thought I would as a result of my music career, you know, and it's just the beginning. So I'm grateful.
This is the beginning. I can't wait until you're further on Naomi, because trust me, you're doing so well. All right.
Thank you.
My two favorite songs from you are Paradise Plum
and Energy.
And Energy, you know.
Yeah. I'm dropping another one this month. So I don't know if you know this, but I'm dropping a song a month for the rest of the year.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so I'm dropping music once a month for the rest of the year. So my next single is titled Lucky Me, featuring Runkus. I don't know if you know his music. So look out for that. So yeah, I'm releasing music like all like it's gonna be non-stop.
I can't
Non-stop.
wait. I cannot wait.
Yeah.
If you haven't listened to Energy, go listen to it right now because it is amazing and the visuals are beautiful.
Yes, yeah.
One thing I admire about you, Naomi, is the relationship that you have with the other females in the industry. A lot of times, the females tend to tear each other down and see each other as competition. But just specifically the relationship that you have with Jadalise and Savannah and Leela, I mean, it is so beautiful. And I really have to applaud all of you for that relationship. You guys truly support each other heavily, and it's something that inspires other females, whether we're in music or not, to work together and collaborate and be there to lift up each other.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important because the truth is that, like, when you look at men and how men operate, not just in music, but just in other industries, like it's like a boys' club, right? It's like a, you know, secret society, if you want to call it that. And they really lift up each other. They really support each other. They put each other on, like they bust each other on them links and them do all of those things. So I think sometimes women, because from an early age, we were conditioned in our minds to see each other as competition. Like, you know, for a fact that just going to school, even as young as you can remember, there was always like, who's the prettiest girl in the class, you know? And that way of thinking, it doesn't do you any good in the long term, because you enter the world of adulthood and not connect with women. And women, we are so strong. We're literally the nurturers of this planet, right? Our role, what part of our role, that's not our only role, but women innately have an ability to take care and nurture one another. And so I think it's so sad that we oftentimes don't get to nurture each other as women. We'll do it for our children, we'll do it for our husbands, our partners, or in our jobs, we'll take care of everybody, and then we forget to take care of each other. So I think it was just a natural progression for all of us. I think we met each other at different points in times in our musical journey, and just saw that the energy was good and it was just like solid. And you know, I've known Savannah the longest because we actually used to sing together at church, you know. But I met Leela and Jazz, like, you know, just along the way, and it wasn't anything forced. It was just like, yo, walk on, you know. And I'm friends with a lot of other female artists as well, like Zia Benjamin. I don't know if you know her music. She's one of my good friends. And there's also just other women, not just in Jamaica, that I stay connected to in music and in the creative space as well. Outside of music, like women in the creative industries, I really just try to support them as best as I can, and have healthy friendships, just so that we know that we're not alone, because it's a lonely journey and it can get very lonely. But of course, if you connect with other people and you support them, it can be a lot more pleasurable.
Amazing. I really admire you and all the females in the industry who come together and, you know, forget the competition and just lift everyone up.
Exactly.
You said that you have a new song coming out every month, but right now the latest single that was released was Energy.
Yeah.
What's the inspiration behind Energy?
Well, Energy, so how I tend to write music is I often start with a very small story or experience, whether it's something I've experienced myself or something that I'm aware that somebody else has experienced. That's one. So, you know, for example, Paradise Plum is based on something, but then I embellished the story a bit more. It was about a guy that I had liked, right? And it was about, so the part that goes silence. So this guy inspired that part of the song because it was somebody I met, and it was a very, like, spending time with him was very low pressure. It was like, you know, I'm not really one for small talk, right? I don't like the fake. I don't like fakeness. I don't like fake conversation. Yeah, like I'm just like, yo, let's get to the meat of the matter. So, but what I liked about this guy, it's just a guy I met, and we were spending a couple of days together because I was traveling at the time, and we would just walk around the city that we were in and like just sit down and just par. But there was no pressure to, you know what I mean? It was just like, which is why I literally wrote, "You never put up a fight, no." And so that part was, he was just so easy in himself, like so comfortable in his own skin. He never put up a fight. He didn't put up a wall or a block or anything like that. Yeah. And then that's where, you know, we like, you know, we never had to say a word, not to say, we never have to, you know, can be silent. So I say all that to say, so then no, nothing really could happen with this guy after, but I built a love story around it as to something that I hope to happen in my own life, right? So that was part I saw my name for energy. Now, unfortunately, energy was inspired by the first time I was ever ghosted by somebody. Oh my God.
Never again.
Yo, that's the worst. I don't know my personality type. I'm a communicator at heart, right? Yeah. So I actually don't really play. I don't like when people play games. I'm not the kind of person who does the whole like, oh, I'm not gonna text him back and I'm gonna wait a day. I don't do all of that stuff. It's like it's either like if I have the time to reply, I'm gonna reply. If I forget, then I forget. You know, so I don't believe in that kind of way of dealing with people, not just with the opposite sex, but just people in general. I'm just really like, I just try to be as authentic as possible. You know, so you even notice like, I saw your message, you know, remember the first time you messaged me? I saw it and I replied and he emailed, and then I literally forgot the name of your account. So for like a whole week and a half, I was like, oh my God, there's this girl that messaged me and I want to do her show. And I just, you know, it took me a while to get back, but it wasn't because I was trying to be difficult or play hard to get or whatever the case is. So I've never had problems with communication in relationships or in dating or whatever, just because, you know, I try to be as very much like what you see is what you get. If I, you know, with people, right? So I was dating this guy and he just disappeared. And it wasn't like, oh, we're just texting every other day. Like we were seeing each other, we were getting to know each other, like we were being like, to me, pretty intentional about what we were doing. No, he was not my boyfriend. I would not have called him my boyfriend.
Just making that clear.
Yeah, I'm not claiming that it was not my man. No, but it was somebody that I was like preying to, you know, we were preying each other to possibly develop a more serious relationship. So anyway, he just one day like just disappeared, you know, and didn't like cut off communication with me. I was actually traveling for work at the time. So it's not like, I mean, obviously I'm not going to show up at nobody's house or whatever. So he kind of ghosted me while I was traveling. And so that was just really weird. And I didn't know what was going on. And I'm not gonna lie, I hated the way that made me feel, because it starts to cause you to question yourself and you're like, did I do something wrong? What did I say? And you're replaying scenarios in your head and it's really messed up. Like, I think it's just a very disrespectful way to treat somebody. Yeah. I didn't disrespect him. I didn't do anything or say anything to disrespect him. Months later, he did come back and apologize and explain what was going on and whatever. But I knew that I deserved more than that. Yeah. I did deserve, to me, if you're not like, you know, interested in whatever's happening, just say it. Just be like, hey, guess what? You know, like, it's been great getting to know you, but definitely don't think this is a, you know, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, just, but don't cut people off. I think, you know, and you don't have to talk to me again after we closed off whatever we were doing. But to me, like, we've been in each other's space and stuff like that, like, show just like respect. So anyway, it was a terrible, I found it, I don't like it. Like, I know that a lot of people do that, like ghosting is a regular thing, but I had never experienced that before. Mm-hmm. So because I had never experienced it before, it really did kind of shake me up a little bit. And you know, I walked away from it knowing that it wasn't about me, and I didn't take it personally after a while, because I was like, for you to think that that's okay, yeah, that means that
there's a problem.
Something going on with you, and it's have nothing to do with me. Yeah. So, you know, it eventually was it was something that became empowering for me. And when I walked into the studio that day, which, well, not really, wasn't a studio, we're just in an Airbnb. When I walked in to meet up with Izzy and stuff, and we started to write, that was what was on my mind. I wanted to write about that. I was like, yo, wow, write about this thing, and especially because I know that a lot of people go through that as well.
Yeah.
And it was draining, it was discouraging, it was confusing, it did make, so I knew that I couldn't be the only person that has experienced that. And I like to write in such a way that people can connect to it. And so that's what it was inspired by, being ghosted, but then I kind of just see it also as like, whenever you come across environments and circumstances and people and, situations that make you question who you are in a negative way. I think self-evaluation is important. Looking within, always important. I do that constantly. But I think that when something is making you question like who you are, the good things about you, and like, it's making you feel less than, that's what this song is about. You direct that conversation back to that thing, and you're just like, listen, nobody's going to dim my light. So that's what energy. So it was inspired by that, and then it was built off of that. So yeah,
I love it, Naomi.
Thank you.
The first couple of lines speak volumes when you said, if I carry 21 times, 22 times
are different dealings, girl. Yeah.
Sometimes we can be so nice, and especially as we have such a caring nature that we give chances and we just keep caring and caring and caring. But 21 times, 22.
Yeah, actually, eventually blocked him because like he wasn't trying to necessarily like get back with me or try but I was like, I don't think you deserve like my space.
No,
you don't deserve my attention, my energy. Like I just had to make that decision, and that's like boundary setting. You have to learn to set certain boundaries with people and not just always feel pressured, as you said, to be a nice person. You don't have to feel like you need to make people like you, especially when they've treated you in a negative way. So
preserve your energy.
You have to take care of it. Like, I think that's one of the hardest lessons I'm learning, is like how to take care of not just myself, like, oh, your skin, you this, you that, and your hair or whatever, but like literally your mental space and your emotional space. It's one of the first things we should be taking care of, because you are better for it, and you become a better person for others when you take care. So
moving forward, your career so far definitely has been a huge success, and where there is success usually lies challenges. Now, I know previously you mentioned to me that one of your challenges or one of your current challenges is your mental health. So would you like to talk more about that and how you are coping?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thank you for saying it's a success. I received that. Sometimes it's hard to see the growth when you're in the middle of working on everything. So I appreciate that. But yeah, so I have, for a long time, like I've had different challenges ever since I was very young, and as early as I can remember, I'm now realizing that I've probably had anxiety for a long time. I mean, like since childhood, but I used to identify it as worrying and saying that my mom used to be like, oh, you worry too much. You're worrying too much about this, or you're worrying too much about that. And then the more I talk about it and read and everything, I'm like, oh, wait, I probably I'm struggling with anxiety for a long time, So, some other things that I have overcome when it comes to mental health, when I was in high school, I had really strong body dysmorphia, which is not really talked about, but I know a lot of women and men as well go through that, where you are obsessed over whether it's a certain part of your body or your face or whatever, and like every time you look in the mirror, you see something wrong with that thing. So in high school, like almost every semester, there was something I was like fixated on and obsessed over, wanted to change and tried my heart, whatever. And then eventually that did develop into, that was like a bit of like a first step into having like eating disorders, right? You know, I'm really thankful that I've managed to overcome those as well. I used to have bulimia, or I don't know how you have it or you had it, whatever. But I was bulimic. I had an overeating disorder, you know, in college. But once again, like, thankfully, I think it's really music that has saved me, because every time I've fallen into a dark place mentally, it's really my purpose in life that has pushed me to try and overcome it, if that makes sense. In other words, I saw how sad and how depleted I felt when I was in the depths of the eating disorder, and it was stopping me from going after my dreams and my goals, and it was stopping me from being a light, you know. So I came from that place. It wasn't just like, oh, I need to get over this, oh, I need to break this habit, oh, you know. I was like, man, like I'm not gonna be able to be who I was created to be if I don't fight this thing, you know. So, you know, those kinds of mental health issues all come with the anxiety, depression, and all of that stuff. And just recently, you know, through therapy and stuff like that, I'm learning that I have ADD or ADHD, which is crazy. I think it's crazy to me because I've like made it through most of, like, you know, young adulthood, you know, school, and I realized like all of these challenges that I used to go through in school and stuff, like it all makes sense. And in terms of how I'm coping, like right now, what I'm doing is working with a therapist on the different strategies I can employ to function better on a daily basis and understand my mind a bit more. Because I think before, I always just thought that, oh, I'm just stupid, you know, or I'm just like all over the place, or I'm just this. Whereas now I have a great appreciation for the way that my mind works. And now I can be more compassionate towards myself, and I can be, I also can put my foot down too. Does that make sense? Like, you know, same thing with the whole being nice and whatever. You don't have to, I don't feel this pressure to have to be everything to everybody at one time, because I'm now seeing where my limitations are, and I'm respecting those. I'm respecting myself on a deeper level, and like honoring my boundaries and honoring myself as a human being, and it's beautiful. So, I mean, you know, and the pandemic definitely has not made it easier, but it's also caused a lot of things to come to the surface. And so I'm working through those things this year, and I'm happy for it.
And I'm really happy that you are able to work through it and overcome some of the challenges that you've had with your mental health journey. And so I'm even more happy to hear you speak about therapy. I know in Jamaica, a lot of people dismiss the idea of going to a therapist. You know, they don't want to go to, you know, shrink and all those things. But when you normalize those type of things in Jamaica, and normalize the conversation about mental health, because still to this day, 2021, it's still a taboo topic.
Yeah, it is a taboo topic. And I think and also I'm very much like, I love research and I love reading and I love so I've read not lots, but I've read some books on how the mind works, and a lot of the challenges that we have in the mental health space, they're actually physiological problems in the brain. Yeah, I've learned and discovered that a lot of the issues that we all come across in the mental health space, there are physiological, physical issues in the brain that cause it, right? And so what that says to me is that it's not like, oh, she's sad and down and depressed. It's like, no, there are chemicals that are not balanced in your mind, in your brain, that just need to work out. Just like how somebody might have high blood pressure or diabetes. They say, oh, it's them blood sugar. Oh, they need to control them salt. Oh, this and that. Like, mental health is actually a thing. It's not just feelings. It is chemicals working in our brain that cause certain feelings, right? And so I really wish that our healthcare system put more attention to it. And I do see the Ministry of Health making an effort to encourage people to talk to others and stuff like that. I just feel like even so, let's say some of my friends that I know from school in Canada and they grew up in a different country and stuff, they're like, oh yeah, my mom picked up on this and that, and I was sent to a child psychologist, and they realized, I think, man, it would just be so nice if children got that opportunity earlier in life, so that, they didn't struggle through certain things, and it's only like after you go through a bag of things that you're finally able to face it. But, I do see the efforts being made, and I see a lot more just Jamaicans in general talking about their mental health and respecting their mental health and taking better care. And so we're getting there.
Day by day, now we take it day by day, and I do hope we get to the place that you desire to be at.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that I'm even here is a place to desire to be, right? I'm in a good place for sure. Because as I said, the more you know and you understand, is the lighter the way it gets, and the easier it is for you to actually work through those things. So,
Naomi, going back a little bit, if you could tell your younger self, you mentioned that throughout high school you were always associated on a specific part of the body and all of that, but versus that little girl compared to who you are today, if you could go back and tell her something, what would you tell her?
I would tell her, don't give a damn about what anybody thinks. That's what I would tell her. I said, no business about what nobody thinks. No business about what people have to say, think. At the end of the day, it starts and ends with you. That's what I would say to her.
Okay. I think every person needs to hear that as well.
Yeah. I would say to her, every decision you make, do not make it based on what people will think about you. Just make that decision. Yeah.
I'm sure she'd be proud to hear that. And then a final piece of advice to anyone in general who may be going into the music industry, or who may just be starting out on their professional or personal career. What is, based on everything you've experienced so far, what is one piece of advice you would give to them?
There's two pieces of advice I would give. I would say I think the hustle of going after what you want is such a balance, right? You have to balance doing what you need to do to get to the next step. So what that means is like, it's working side jobs, getting extra money as you can to invest back into your career or whatever the case is. But then at the same time, you also don't want to settle, right? So what I would say to anybody on any path or journey, regardless of if you want to go into a more traditional profession, or you want to work for other people, or you want to work for yourself, I would say don't compromise on that long-term goal, right? So don't put yourself in a circumstance that's going to derail you, if that makes sense. So if you're going to take on a job or take on a side job for the money, do that, but don't take on something that's literally going to take so much out of you that you're going to lose sight of that goal. Don't take on other projects that don't add up to the bigger picture, unless obviously you really feel like you want to help somebody. But does that make sense? It's like it's a balance, because there are some people out there that will be like, oh well, this is not what I want to do, so I'm not going to do it ever. But the truth is, if it's going to pay your bills and it's going to like give you cash to invest into what you're doing, then do it. But if it's taking so much out of you that you can't even focus, on the longer term goal, whatever that is, then, I think constantly push to find ways to make money in such a way that allows you to live and eat and whatever. Don't bother like starve yourself, but don't lose sight of that long-term goal and chip at it every day. That's what I would say. Like, find that balance, and don't be ashamed of it too. I still do other things on the side that like bring money in that I don't publicize, but it helps me to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, especially like the first time I went to New York on my own, to do a press run for Paradise Plum, meaning I had a TV interview booked, and they said, if you want to come for the interview in studio in New York, like for Good Day New York on Fox, I had to pay my ticket, right? And then I booked a bunch of other radio interviews. I paid for my ticket. I stayed on my friend's couch, right? I didn't have, as I said, like I'm not, like I am my label, right? So I funded everything, but the money that paid for that ticket and paid for my food and just like me to exist for a week and a half in New York, that was from me doing voiceover jobs, radio voiceover work, you know? So don't be ashamed to take on other gigs to help support your overall dream. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no one way for anything to work out. And especially in music, I think we all think that like it happens magically and it's like, oh, I have a song and then like everything falls into place. Like if I was stubborn and I was like, oh, well, I'm not gonna go to New York if I don't have like a hotel booked and a this and a that. And you'll never get there. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to humble yourself and just put in the work, you know? So that's one piece of advice I would give. The other piece of advice I would give is don't compare yourself. Don't watch the way that it's working out for don't watch the way that it's working out for somebody else and compare it to you. Because everybody's coming from a different place. Everybody has different experiences. Like, you know, God didn't make any of us the same. You know, we were born into different circumstances. We've had different challenges. So don't sit down and compare. Some people also compare and look down on other people's experiences too. I mean, to me, you're just a terrible person for doing that. But try your hardest to not compare yourself. That is the biggest piece of advice, because you will get distracted in your mind. You will lose focus. You will feel discouraged. You will feel like you're far behind. You know, and that's something I work on daily, to the point where like I don't really go on other people's, like, this is so bad because like I try to support my friends, but I actually like sometimes don't go on social media other than to do my part, like do my like posting and stuff. And I come off as a way to like stay in the zone, you know. But then what I will do is I will intentionally go on someone's page and be like, yo, what is person dep on? And then I'll go and leave a bunch of comments or whatever. But I try not to get sucked into what is happening, because then I will start comparing myself or start worrying about like what people think, you know, like even just by, sometimes you'll even find that by looking at the comments that people make on another person's post or whatever, even for women. So like, let's say like Scan Media or Sleek or something posts a good looking girl in a bikini, right? I'm gonna take it out of the music space. And then you go on that post and you read the comments and you see them say, yeah, man, girl, come out nice and rare, whatever. You're going to start comparing yourself to that girl, you know.
Why can't I look like her?
Or and you're thinking to yourself, oh, if I post a bikini picture, am I not going to get the love that this person is getting because they have that kind of body? It's actually so crazy how it gets in our like subconscious, this whole thing. So I know for me, like controlling how much I compare myself to others is very important. It's very, very important. I just try to just like, even sometimes my mother will call me and be like, oh, you know, I just saw this, that's on the, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. I just don't, and it's not because of like jealousy, but it's like self-management of my mind to just like, you know, in a way kind of keep your blinders on and just like keep a focus. So that's the next word of advice. I mean, and then once again, you also need to see what's happening, because you need to stay abreast, like especially if you're trying to go into a certain industry, you need to see what's happening in the industry that you're in, but just try and manage that comparison factor as best as you can. That's what I would say.
I love that piece of advice about comparison, because trust me, sometimes it's easier said than done. Yeah, I find it like, I think I even do that too, where I go on social media, I promote my business, I promote my show, and then I pretty much just come off. Because if I spend too much time on there, I either stay too long on social media and not get what I have to do done, because I have a lot of things to get done every day, or I start watching other things and comparing and say, oh, why it not looking like this, or I should be more. That just stop.
Exactly. And just be consistent with what you're doing, because you're gonna grow, like, you know, but you can't sit down and think that it all needs to be perfect all at once. Like, you have to start somewhere, and so try not to compare where somebody else is, because you don't know what they had to do to get there.
Exactly. Naomi, my final question for you today is a special question I have that I ask all my guests, and that is, are you ready? If someone could make a movie about you, About everything that you've been through, what would the title be?
Wow. Oh, I know what the title would be. She's a Trip.
I like that.
She's a Trip.
That title.
I think that was a Tumblr page I had one time. I think I started a Tumblr page called She's a Trip. I've always thought it was funny. That's like the name of my Wi-Fi network in my house.
Really?
Yeah, She's a Trip. I just think that I think just because my life has just been this very interesting journey, you know, and I know that I have a very unique personality, and a lot of times when people meet me, they're like, "You're nothing like what I expected," because I'm very weird and awkward, and you know, I have a very colorful personality. You know what I mean? So I think, yeah, when you get around me and you actually enter into my world, it's a bit of a journey for you too. So yeah.
I love that title, and if it were a movie, I'd watch it.
Yeah. Who knows?
Who knows?
Noted.
Naomi, thank you so much for sharing with us today. It was really inspiring, and I am really inspired and motivated by your journey.
Oh, thank you.
Continue to go on your music journey, and I wish you all the best with that. Where can my listeners and viewers find you on social media?
Yeah, man. So thankfully, there's not a lot of Naomi Cowans out there. So on every platform, just at NaomiCowan, Naomi Cowan, and that's my name. That's my stage name, and that's me.
So you heard it, guys. Please go find her at Naomi Cowan on all social media platforms.
And don't just follow me, like actually engage with me, like comment. You know what I mean? Yeah, no matter what the watch thing.
All of that. DM her.
Right.
I promise that she will respond.
But I'll try.
Yes. Naomi, I can't let you leave unless you drop a line from Energy. Have to.
Oh.
Now, Naomi, impromptu.
Sure. Yes. Cause ain't nobody dim my light. And you know I'm fitting it right. Look on me cute and nice. You know I was your paradise. Look from when me I say are you. Hey. I criticize and accuse everything we do. Hey, nobody with the ring, me not there with you. Invisible even though say me there. So yeah, man, that's energy.
Naomi, thank you again so much for bringing the energy. And
yes.
I thank all my listeners and viewers today who tuned in to listen to this discussion with Naomi Cowan. And don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share with your friends and family and anyone you believe that will benefit from this discussion today. I'll see you in the next video and take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Climbing, 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 climbing to the top. Oh, how when you find it, find it, find it, find it.